kicked off. So, welcome to another in a range of Happiness Academy webinars. This one on a little bit more specific topic: design your own self-development plan. And I have to admit, I was thinking hard and long, what should we do with this? So I hope you're gonna like the conclusion. So we're not going to go so far and so deep in developing a very comprehensive self-development plan, but we're going to go more with the approach of finding out what is it in terms of self-development that is most important, most actual for you right now, and how can you plan to boost that. So you're not going to leave with the list of everything you want to develop and learn and how, but more of with a bit more focused list of what is most important right now and how do you want to approach it over the next few weeks and month. I hope that works for you. If not, too late to change it now. So, no. But I still get the inputs in chat if you want to go in a little bit different direction or if you will be missing something. So before we kick off the topic, I will invite you one more time to share in chat if you would like to. Where are you right now? Also your name, if you have some nickname written as your name. And then also maybe one random skill or idea of something you wish to develop next. So something related to self-development and learning. And thanks for those few sharing already. So before we get into deeper into the topic, I'll go very quickly. I know many of you have been to webinars before, so I will keep this part very short. But I'll just go very quickly in giving context to this webinar a little bit. So within Happiness Academy, which is my initiative related to positive psychology training and just creating a lot of learnings related to positive psychology and more fulfilled life and more resilient and happy life. So within Happiness Academy, one of the main things we are doing is training and workshops. But another thing that we decided to do this year as totally very free offer is sort of a monthly webinar, basically 12 webinars throughout this year, not always landing monthly in the schedule, with 12 different topics related to 12 different pillars of happiness, which is the framework we use on Happiness Academy. So this webinar will be quite similar to previous webinars if you attended one. If not, I can present it shortly. It will be roughly 1 hour long, and it will be a lot of me speaking because it's really aimed to spreading content and to also having a recording we can share with others who are not here, and kind of more like a bigger group thing, not as interactive as some other things. If you're more into experiential learning and going deeper and really developing one more narrow skill, then I would invite you to keep an eye on workshops we are doing. And if you love conversations and exchanges and sharing, then I would invite you to join one of the meetups. We have them in Zagreb, in Amsterdam, and also virtual through Positive Psychology Tribe Facebook group. So these are all different places to join the conversation, and this is where our webinars fit as a topic. Behind all of it is me, Mirna, a trainer, coach, speaker, in love with training and positive psychology, in love with adventures, an ex-engineer, and the founder of Happiness Academy. I think most of you knows me already from somewhere, so I'm not going to stay long on that topic. As I said, this webinar is following the 12 pillars of happiness. And for those who are following the 12 pillars in the tribe or on our newsletter, they will know that it fits under pillar number 7, so-called continuous self-development or conscious self-development. So just the habit of continuously growing as a person, developing ourselves, building these habits of exploring, learning, and self-development. If you want to explore this pillar a little bit broader, you can also find this visual on Happiness Academy website under the 12 pillars part. So that's pillar 7, and there is much more under there written on different just exercises to do and ways of exploring the topic of self-development. But today, in this short webinar, we will just go a little bit deeper into more specific your own self-development plan. And as I said a bit earlier, we're not going to go so broad in building very comprehensive plan like we would do, for example, in life design or kind of very, very big plan. Instead, we will go more with the approach of kind of refocusing you on what is most important thing for you in your self-development right now, and how can you refocus on that and build more of that. That's kind of the thinking behind it. So thank you everyone for saying hi in chat. I'm keeping an eye on it. I'm not going to read all of it from the beginning. It's really nice to see some familiar names, and it's really nice to see some new angles now, from those familiar names, and some new names. And by the way, Yeli, I'm in Serbia right now, so hello as well. No, nice to see you too. Okay, cool. So let's dive into the topic, and I'll share a bit more about the plan for today, and I'm happy to also hear in chat if you feel like something is missing in that plan, if you would like to have something else. So first of all, we will just very shortly touch on what is self-development anyway. What do we mean by that in a way? We're not going to really stay with this too long, not to tap into theory too much. And then we're going to spend most of the call today on just assessing and reflecting on where are you right now within your self-development, using one of the tools you might have encountered already. It's quite well-known tool from coaching, but we will use it with a little bit different angle, so it's a little bit more focused on self-development. And then from that tool and overview, we will go more towards what do you want to develop next? What are the next steps for you? And as I like to do, as many of you know, we will finish with you firmly committing to one immediate action you will do very soon that is related to your newly built plan. So are there any wishes like that? Does this sound okay? Is that something you can agree to approaching it this way, kind of assessing a bit on where you are right now and then choosing some of more narrow focus? Or is there something missing? Did you hope for something else? If yes, you can tell me, or you can write in chat, whatever you prefer.
For sure, Mirna, this sounds awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Please do continue.
I have 2 yeses. I can move on, even though we're 14. Cool. Thanks, Philip. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Sotiria, for the confirmation. And still feel free to share if you know this already. So I will ask first, who is familiar with this tool already? It's quite well-known tool. It's called Wheel of Life, and it's quite used in coaching. So maybe you can also give me just a little why in chat if you know it already. Yeah, we have 1 no, we have 2 yeses, 3 yeses. Okay, and 2 no's. Okay, that's a good balance. Half right now. Excellent. So
I didn't know, so I need to steer it in a no direction.
Great, because now in chat we have exactly half. So you just steer it there. Thank you. Cool. So we're gonna, let me just share it with you briefly. It's a tool that's about scoring how satisfied you feel with different areas of your life. In coaching, it's usually more used in context of goal setting. So in coaching, we will use it more also to figure out where we are and then proceed with setting certain goals. We will use it today with a little bit more tweak related to self-development. And you can tweak it much more. Like maybe some of you are familiar with Trainer's Compass, the tool we use on Train the Trainer, and I also wrote about it on Trainer's Toolbox on the blog for trainers. It's a tool that kind of grew out of Wheel of Life, but then went in totally different directions. So the idea is that Wheel of Life you can adapt a lot depending what you want to use it for. But today we're going to use it simply for for assessing your skills and where you want to move with them. So what I would invite you to do, I hope all of you have a pen and paper. I hope you got that bit of my email. If not, try to find something to scribble on. And I'll invite you to kind of follow through and actually do your scoring. Even if you knew Wheel of Life before, to still take a moment now to reflect on different areas of your life. So in our example, I will share 9 different areas that you could work with. But I will also invite you to, instead of just following the 9 that I mentioned, to actually write your own life areas that you would like to work with. Rachel, it's pity you can't use it like in written. It would be much easier, but maybe you can try to at least reflect on it a little bit and think which areas stand out. And yeah, I think you will still be able to follow, although maybe not so sharp and so focused. But yeah, you can try. No. So the areas that we sometimes work with and that we could work with is, one aspect could be social life. So how are our connections, friendships, Do we feel good in terms of our relationships? Then the second one could be health and fitness, or you could call it body, or you could choose only health or only fitness. So one other aspects could be finance. That's one that some people like to put a separate life area. Some don't care that much. So that's quite also personal. So I would invite you from all of these areas that I'm mentioning to choose the ones you think you consider an important life area. Feel free to disregard the rest. And then in the end, I also invite you to maybe add on some other if you feel like. The fourth one could be career, or you could call it professional life, or any way you like. And then one very much in spirit or of today could be learning and self-development. Then we have love or meaningful partnership, you could call it, or love life or relationship, or depends how you want to call it. Then we could have family. You could merge these two into one as well. That's up to your preference. It doesn't have to be 9 portions, by the way, of compass, of our wheel of life. Then there could be an area called spiritual life. Again, optional. And then there could be one called fun. I like to call this one adventure, or exploring new things or something like that, or playfulness. So it could be many different things. So I'll give you a minute now to think a little bit, which 9 areas would it be for you? And you can, if you want to be ambitious, you can actually draw sort of a big circle like this and split it in 8 or 9 kind of pies, and then give each a name of one life aspect. But you can also do it much more simple and just basically write down a list of these 8 or 9 areas you wish to work with. So just give you a minute for that. I'll shut up for that minute. And I'll ask you also, if you add on some other area that we didn't mention here, can you also please share it in chat, because maybe, or speak up, because maybe it's a cool idea for someone else to also pick it up. So the question for you, writing down all of life aspects and life areas you consider important. So is there anyone who wishes to add on some life area to, okay, connection to myself. Cool, very nice. Sometimes they also put like a self-awareness type of a thing as one area. Oh, I like that connection to myself. Yeah, as I said, I would add adventure or exploration or something like that. You could also add something like professional development if it's different from career, because career could be more about achievement. So that could also be one option. So could I have a little yes or plus or Y in chat if you have your life areas, and little N or no or minus if you need more time to figure it out. Okay, we have one pie, life satisfaction. Okay.
I have a question for you, Mirna. So would you suggest that we focus on just one, or is there any suggested number of how which number of categories would you suggest that we work on?
So most commonly it's worked with 8 or 10. We will not be developing all of these. We will be developing some that you will choose a little bit later. But for now, I would just ask you to write down at least 6, not more than 10, that you consider important. And that doesn't mean we'll be focusing on all of them, but we want to try to make it the whole big picture for now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. So maybe I'm just going one step further at a time, so I will just be patient.
But I'll go there now, so that's cool.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Okay, cool. So I did see one no in chat, but as we had many yeses, then I'll continue. And please try to catch up if you're not there yet. Don't worry. In the next step, you can still stay a bit with the previous step. It's a bit hard to make the right tempo for everyone. So in the next step, I will invite you to score with the scores from 1 till 10, your satisfaction with each of these aspects. And that means literally not like how would someone else score it, but how happy you are with that aspect of your life, where 10 would be, it's exactly the way I would imagine it, like the best possible. You know, let's say my career, it's exactly the way I want it to be. Then I give it 10. 1 would be not happy at all. And 5 would be like, yeah, it's okay. So you get what I mean. So anything between 1 and 10, score next to each of the areas. In the way we do it in Wheel of Life is usually like this, that we actually do 10 concentric circles, and then we assign them numbers, and then we colored in up to number 6 and so on. So we see it a bit more visually. But as right now, it might be a bit complex for you to draw it, and I didn't send you a template in advance, then you can just also write it linear, just write numbers 1 to 10 as a score for each of the areas. So I'll also give you a minute for that. And I'll ask you maybe once you're finished to write again little Y or plus in chat, so I know when most of people are finished, not to give you pressure.
Mirna, do you know what, have you came across the application called Goalscape?
No, I don't know it.
So I will write it in the chat. I now realize that even though I didn't know that this is called Wheel of Life, this Goalscape is actually just that, and it's an interactive circle. It's also divided in concentric circles like this, and it's interactive in a way that once you draw attention to one part of it, and you really take the focus on it, then I mean, you can play with the circles in a way that you can go in inner depth of every circle, and then by choosing on which one you want to expand, you lose the ability to go in depth in the other one. And this is very good for me because it has the time how to say it, component of time involved in it, because you can't do all at once. So by focusing on one, you kind of you lose the ability to focus on other ones. And this is in this application, it's very visual, as you say.
Okay.
That you put constraints on yourself, being the self-development freak, as some of us are. You put a constraint on yourself that you only do one category and put aside everything else until you focus and nail down on only one of them.
Yeah, so with Wheel of Life, as it comes from coaching, it's more usually focused on trying to have balance, kind of imagining it literally that these colors should form a wheel in a way, meaning if some are too short, then it's bumpy ride. So it's a bit of opposite from what you're saying. But then again, I think it's a tool, and you can adopt it in many ways and use it in many ways. And for now, we were using it the way you would use it in coaching, but now we're going to diverge a bit more towards skills. So yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, I see your point. I think it's a very valid point, but I think it's also a bit different usage of the same tool. Yeah, cool. So now we got a lot of yeses, so I'm going to move on slowly. So our next step will be, sorry, I'm back on Wheel of Life. I wanted to put it for you. Would be to choose 3 areas you would like to improve. And this is still something we would normally do with Wheel of Life in coaching, and then we would go towards goals. Instead, we will go towards skills now. But now the invitation for you is, from these scores and these areas you wrote down, to choose 3 areas you would most like to improve in sense, which are 3 areas that if you would change, 2 or 3, that if you would change them and if you would improve something about that area of your life, it would have the biggest impact on everything else. And it would have the biggest impact on your satisfaction in life. Yeah, and in some way, maybe it's most energizing and motivating area for you to improve in a way. It would give you most energy and somehow motivation if you would build that one a little bit further. Yeah. So if that was too many questions at the same time, then the main one is which 2 or 3 areas, if improved a little bit, if they move to the next level, for example, if they're at 5, if you would move them to 6, would have the biggest impact on everything else and on your, in general, how happy you are in life and how satisfied you are. So I'm going to give you again like half a minute or a minute to figure out. Gonzalo, no worries, by sending you all recording later anyway. So, yeah. So I'm going to leave you with 20 seconds or half a minute to figure out which 3 areas those are. You can also give me yes or plus to know where we are. Cool. So I think I see many of you are quite clear on which areas should we be drilling into. So this exercise is quite good, even if you did it before, even if you do it often, it's kind of good to sometimes to reconnect to it, just to kind of remind ourselves where we are and to notice if something changed and so on. Yeah. So we have 5 yeses. I'll wait for maybe like 2 more and then we go to the next step. Okay, 1 to go, 1 to go. Cool, then let's move on to the next step. So the next step, now we will diverge a bit finally into self-development area. And I will invite you for these 2 or 3 aspects that you chose to write for each of them one skill that would really help you. So one personal skill or knowledge or whatever, attitude, something you could develop basically, that would be your best tool and your best way in bringing you to that next level in that aspect. I'm not sure if that was clear, so let me give you an example. Let's say that one of the areas you chose as the ones you could be pushing forward is career development. Let's say your career, you scored at 5 as satisfaction. So now you're thinking, what would I need to learn or develop? What kind of skill or knowledge or attitude to bring my career from level 5 to level 6? So 1 point up. And maybe that would be, I don't know, to be more effective in giving feedback to my team or whatever. So you could think of some specific skill that would help you. So I'm going to shut up now, let you think about it for these 2 or 3 areas that you chose. Please do let me know if that was not clear. And please do give me yes or plus in chat when you have that list of one skill for each of these 2 or 3 areas. Cool, we got 1 comment that says it's clear, but it's quite difficult. I agree, it's not very straightforward link always, and it quite depends on what it is, your content. But if you find difficulty to find it, you could start with the goal. So you could think, okay, what should I achieve to get to the next level? And then what skill would I need to achieve that? I hope that helps. I'm not sure it does. If it doesn't, please feel free to also share the specific dilemma or if we can help with it. So how are you doing with this? If somebody feels stuck, please feel free to share or ask for ideas, being it specific to your content or being it in general. How could you go about it? Okay, we have one done. That's good. There is hope. Cool, even without writing. Well done, Rach. Christoph, if we can help with the ish, do say how we can help. Okay, cool. Okay, so we have like 4 dones, which is not that much. So I'm wondering, what do others need? Do you need more time, or do you have some questions, or what would you? We still have 3 steps left and they all build on top of this one. So if we're stuck here, we need to work it out. No. So if there are any doubts, please don't hesitate to ask. Rach, your description. I'm actually writing it on my calendar while splitting the screen on the phone, so I see the presentation, and carrying my bike along, riding it would be impossible. I think I can see some skill I should put on my self-development plan there, which is to carry a bike or doing a webinar and your own self-reflection at the same time. Cool. Okay, cool. So now we have quite a lot of dones. So I'm going to move on slowly. But if you're stuck with this step, now is the time to ask, or stay with it a little bit more before continuing to the next one.
Okay. So I have a question. I am done, but I can see that someone can have a real challenging moment when linking that. What should next step be? I mean, I've been in times where I would be so stuck that I would not even know what the next step would be, and I wouldn't be in this place in the first place. If I know what would be, I would just go there and learn it. So the thing you suggested to aim for the goal was quite a nice twist. Do you have any other tips? How would you go deeper on this?
It's very hard to speak so general because it can be so different what content you have. And normally, if you would be doing this kind of process in coaching, I would be aware of your content.
Okay.
Then there would be more flexibility to the process. But yes, you could go with what is missing for you in order to move to the next level. Kind of like what would need to happen for you, and then you could go towards what skill would you need to make that happen, in a way, right? Or you could go, what would the dream be? Like what would number 10 in that area be? And then how does bridge between wherever you are, 5, 6, and 10 looks like? And what would be the first step in that? And what skill would you need then?
Yeah.
But it so depends. I think even depending which area of life you chose and then what's happening for you, that's already like so many different options, you know, that it's hard to answer in general or to give the process in general. Okay, Rach said, also shared something. She said she doesn't have to choose the next step as the only next one, but thinking what could help on improving. Yeah, so maybe that's a very good tip, like that there is no one right answer, but so not like what's the best skill. Maybe I set a bit too much pressure there. What's the best skill you could develop, but kind of like what would be a skill that would be helpful for the next level in a way. It could be more skills. I just wanted you to choose one, not to have too broad focus. Cool, let's move on to the next step then, if that's okay. Yeah, so the question is then, if now you should have this list of maybe 2-3 skills, maybe 4, depends how you went about it. Hopefully not many more. If you have many more, just choose 2 or 3 that seem most important in some way. I think most of us have feeling for that, even if we didn't think about it too much. And then for each of these 2-3 skills, write down, and it can be really just a sentence, like description, textual sentence. What would be the next step in advancing that skill? So for example, if you wrote that you would like to improve your open communication in the context of relationship, for example, then the question would be, what would the next step could be? One theoretical next step could be to just have a really open, honest conversation, for example, with your partner. Another thing could be to read a good book related to it. So it could be many different things. So the question is here, if those would be the skills you would be advancing, what would be a specific next step you could take in order to be building up that skill? And in that, to be driven by what's most impactful step, or what's most motivating step for you. And I'll give you a minute to think about that, and then I'll give you a ton of ideas on different skills as well, just to kind of give some food for thoughts as well. But first, your thoughts before inception. Okay, I'll throw a lot of sort of like a brainstorm of many skills at you, just kind of to spread a little bit your thinking about what all different skills we could be using for the next step. So if you feel like some of them is useful, feel free to pick it up. And then in the end, I'll also ask for some of your input. And then I'll still give you a bit of time to think if you want to work also with some of these, or you have enough of your own already. So one of the skills or one group of skills could be related to communication. And that's something that could be important in many different aspects, from work to relationships and so on. And then we could drill that down into much more specific, from communication to maybe more expressing yourself more effectively, or listening more effectively, or being clear in feedback, or protecting our boundaries and saying no better, or maybe presenting, or that kind of more professional skills. Then another group of skills could be planning, And that could be, again, drilled down to setting clear goals or setting more clear milestones, or maybe setting better metrics, or learning and using new tools for planning. Then the next one could be related to achieving goals in some areas, like maybe in area of fitness and health, or again of work. Achieving goals could be quite useful thing, and that could be related to skills of keeping focus better, just working on sort of mindfulness skills or different ways of keeping focus, or maybe related to accountability techniques, to kind of give more pressure to actually do things that we commit to, and then to morning routines or effective habits, which are all sort of skills in a way. And then it could be also skills related to learning. For example, if you scored your career or maybe learning and development area low, then you could think about some of these and look into concepts of developing skills of accelerated learning, mind mapping, speed reading, many other learning techniques. Then another quite random skill could be cooking. No, because that could be related again to health, to expressing your creativity, so to many different things. Then Yeli is adding taking initiative. Yes, I think that could definitely be a skill. It's something in strength we would call activators, strength of activation of doing, but yeah, definitely. I think you could claim a skill, anything you wish to develop, and you see it as part of your self-development. Then we have a few more. You could talk about prioritizing as well. That would be an important one. That's one we are practicing today a little bit. And that could be done in context of time management or in context of how we are making decisions. So this could also be different skills. Then connecting with others, but not just in communication, but maybe with higher level, like keeping relationships more meaningful, knowing which ones are meaningful, not spending time in small talk, but instead connecting more deeply, being more intentional about connections we have, or maybe more related to creating new connections and how we do that, which may be, I don't know, in context of work or in social life. This could be quite a relevant skill. Then we could talk about creativity and boosting skill of creativity, and just from perspective of thinking in new ways to also just creating more, like creating different whatever content, things, products, art. Then also related to expressing ourselves more. That could also be quite a nice skill, just saying I want to express myself more in a way, which could be related to relationships, to fun, to self-development, to many life areas again. And then we could also talk about professional skills, and these could be very specific depending on your profession. They could be some of the technical skills, they could be skills of facilitation, or maybe business development, branding, marketing, something like that, depends what you do. So they could be very, very kind of more hard skills, more specific skills. So this is just a very random list I wanted to throw at you with the idea that most of us probably have some of these kind of in mind, and I just wanted to kind of provoke a little bit of new perspectives maybe. But now what I would be most interested in hearing would be also what are maybe some of your examples of skill you would like to be developing. So I would invite you to share in chat, like Yeli just shared the taking initiative one, to maybe share some of the skills you named for yourself that you would like to be developing, to give ideas to others. And then I'll give you again a little bit of time to think about if you want to take some of these ideas and yeah, run with them and work on them. So just like 20 minutes, 20 seconds, 30 seconds to share in chat any other skills you might want to share. Like I can share one very random one I chose as my point of development recently, and it was writing with the left hand. And it was just with this idea that I want to provoke my brain to think a little bit differently somehow and just step out of my routines. And then that was sort of quite random choice of a skill, yeah. Okay, Anna says to not be bored of thinking and processing things. Okay, that's a good... I'm usually bored when I don't think, so I'm the opposite. I need to develop action of thinking less and processing things less. Okay, losing fear when leading in partner dances. Okay, wow, that's that's an attitude and a skill all in one. Okay.
Yeah, I guess it's more an attitude. Yeah.
Well, I think it's I keep calling them skills, but if we talk about self-development, we talk about also knowledge and attitude. So, okay, cool. I would challenge you to drill that one down into steps. Like, how would that look, the next level, not the immediately losing the fear, but what would be the next steps in between? Sotiria says the opposite, letting people lead. Is that in partner dances, Sotiria, or in general?
Yes. I started salsa and everybody's calling me controlling.
Oh my God. Never happened to me. Cool. So anyone else who wants to share a skill, this is your last chance. And it would be really nice to have a few more just to know with what kind of topics we are working with, and also to give ideas to others. So 10 seconds. Okay. Writing down regular fitness schedule for all season. Yeah, that sounds very reasonable goal. I like it. Especially before the autumn and winter, which is like time when you don't want to move. Okay, reconnection in spiritual area. Really nice. Although I would also, it does feel a little bit abstract still. So I would invite you maybe to also think a bit more what would be tangible steps in that. Maybe you have already for yourself, but okay, how I connect to myself and values, and the next step is to get a coach or do self-coaching. Okay, cool. I can recommend some cool books if you remind me, Sotiria. Okay, Rach says she wrote more of next action than skills. That's cool as well, but just connect it. Yeah, like even if action is like you're saying, planning finance, you could just think, okay, what skill would I need to develop in order to make that happen? Would I need to be more accountable in order to make it happen? Or do I need some knowledge for that? Or what is the skill related to it? You could also go with that. Not that anything is wrong with goals. Okay, Philip says, windsurf is the goal, learning to fly kite. Okay, well, tough season you chose for that. Okay, just before the winter already approaching, but that's cool. That's a good goal. Okay. Kevin, managing to be tough and kind with my students. Oh, challenging one. I like it. That's a good goal. Cool. Okay, yeah, I see most of you kind of set it in that space between the skill and goal, and that's fine. Often we would work with this same process actually focused on goals. We purposefully gave it, or I purposefully gave it a tweak of more skill development because of our topic today, but you could choose to work with both. Or if you would want to work a little bit more with skill and self-development, then you could just kind of drill this down a little bit more. I think some of the ones you mentioned are still a little bit on high level. So they're kind of like big next step. And I would invite you, and we will work with that a little bit now, to try to find small steps that are bridging it. What are small sub-skills and, next little levels in order to reach that, let's say, that skill or that knowledge and so on. So in order for us, and our next step now is to develop a bit more tangible plan. What are you doing with that specific skill? But for that, what we will do, we will first choose one or two that's really standing out for you. So we could really focusly, is that a word? Put focus in developing that plan for one specific or two specific skills versus having it too broad. So if you didn't end up with one or two already, I think you could have still 3 or 4. I would invite you to choose one or maximum 2 of skills that you kind of brainstormed and came up with that you would like to be developing first. And it would be really good if that would be related to your wheel of life, and that would actually also be the skill that will contribute to advancing your most challenging area, but it's not a requirement. But do think with that in mind also, that it's also a skill that you want to develop next, but also that contributes to your area of life that you feel is the least flourishing in a way. So I will ask you one more time, when you have 1 or 2 chosen skills you wish to be developing first and working on developing first in the context of your wheel of life, to give me a yes or plus or something in chat. And then when everybody has it, we will move to our almost last step. last step, and then we have just the closing step. So almost. Okay, we have a couple of very quick people. Okay, I think this process is so different for everyone when you look into the content and so on, that it's a bit tricky to for everyone to adjust to the pace. So sorry for people who are feeling rushed a bit. No. Okay, we have 6 yeses, so we'll give it 2 more. Okay, 7, then 1 more, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, but if you feel like you need a bit more time to choose, please. Yeah, I know it's hard to choose, no, but think like this. You can always come back to this with another one and then do the same planning with another one. This one is just kind of to choose one now. Cool, and now I would invite you to make a specific plan. And set some maybe goals, or what would you want to do with this skill, starting from a little bit bigger picture. So starting from how would you want this skill to look like in 1 year from now? So, I mean, your level in this skill. So maybe you could just write a sentence or two, or imagine it. How would it look like and feel like when in 1 year from now you would achieve your goal of you would develop this skill as much as possible in a year? How would that look? How would it make you feel? How would it, yeah, how would you behave with that skill? And I'll give you a minute for that. Maybe you can also give me yes in chat so I don't interrupt you too fast. So when you have a clear idea, how would this skill in 1 year, when you would be developing it throughout the year, what would you want to achieve? How would you want it to look? When you have that clear, please give me yes or plus in chat. I'm glad I asked you give me yes, because I would move on already. And I see it takes a bit more time for this. So okay, I'm waiting for 3 more yeses. And if you have some dilemma here as well, questions are also very welcome. Don't be shy. Okay, so we're gonna move on, but if you're not done with this step, feel free to stay with this one a little bit longer and then just join us for the next one when you're ready. The next one is pretty straightforward. If that's how the skill would look in a year, how would it look in 6 months? Or what would you realistically like to achieve in the area of this skill in 6 months? And if skill is a bit more simple, then it's possible these two are the same. But for many, it will, if it's something that takes longer to develop, maybe they're not totally same. So yeah, if that's what you define as 1 year sort of goal or vision, what of that would be realistic to achieve in 6 months? So I'll give you just a bit shorter time for this. Yeah, and you can give me yes again to know when we are ready to move on. I like how different steps seems to be of different difficulty for different people, probably depending on what they chose to work with. Okay, I'll shoot out to the next 2 steps, and you, if you're finished with 6 months, please continue. But if you're not, stay a bit longer with 6 months. But then our next steps would be 3 months and 1 month. And you can skip one of these. It's up to you how you want to plan it. I don't want to mandate too many steps, but ideally you could also set some goal, sub-goal that you wish to achieve in 3 months. So 3 months is optional, up to you. But one that I would really invite you to set is how would it look in 1 month? If that's your goal for a year and for 6 months from now that you just set, that's the level you wish to achieve in that skill. What would that mean? What would you need to achieve in 1 month? And with 1 month, I would invite you to also think, what would that mean? What would you need to do throughout the next months? Is it some new habit? Is it some action you would need to do? What specifically would you need to do in the next 1 month in order to achieve that desired level that you wish to have in a month? Yeah, by goals versus habits, I mean, for some skill, it's more about building a habit. For example, if I want to have a skill of prioritizing better, then maybe I need to get in habit of taking a small moment to think about my priorities every day. So that's sort of a habit that I need for that skill to happen. But for some other skills, I need something that's more like achieving goals. For example, if my skill would be, I don't know, learning a language, I could be learning it through developing a habit. For example, I don't know, listening to, working on Duolingo exercises every day or whatever. Or I could achieve it as a goal by, for example, setting, I want in 1 month to pass this exam from that language or something like that. So you could choose which of these two would you like to use? Would you like to focus more on goals and specific milestones you want to achieve and how will you achieve them? Or would you like to focus on new habits to develop of developing that skill? And this would depend also on which skill it is. But it would also be a bit of a choice. Was that clear? I'm so not an evening type. Sorry if I'm a bit not that clear today. Cool. So now we are kind of on 1 month plan. And the idea is to define what you want to achieve at the end of that 1 month, but also what do you want to do in terms of goals, habits, actions throughout that 1 month between now and whatever, 10th of October. So, and then I will ask you again to just give me yes when you actually have that plan. And I'll shut up in the meantime. And by the way, well done everyone on your focus. We have like 5, maximum 10 minutes left till we finish the whole topic. Cool. Suddenly we have a lot of yeses, so that encourages me to ask the final question related to your plan and goals, which is, what about 1 week? That's nothing in terms of developing a skill. It's not going to get you far, but it's really crucial in starting off on the right foot. So what would be the best first steps you could do within 1 week in order to, you know, propel yourself to start developing that skill properly throughout the next month, 3 months, 6 months, and so on? What are the crucial actions to do already in the next week to really set you on the right path? And I'll give you a minute or 2 for that, or until you give me yes in the chat. So what are the first steps, the first most impactful actions that you could done in a week? It's even better if you can really develop them in the plan and give them day of the week. You will do them between now and next Monday. We have 5 yeses, so we'll wait for 2 or 3 more. And then we're gonna move on to a few final mini remarks for closing and then action time. Cool. Cool, let's move then. So I hope you figured out something interesting with your plan. If you're not, please feel free to pick it up, or also, yeah, it's a bit of action time already, I confess. Feel free to pick up also this discussion and sharing your findings and ideas in the tribe, because so in the Facebook group, Positive Psychology Tribe, because that's really a place for this kind of conversations. So if you wanna, you know, look for buddies, look for ideas, feedback, share where you got stuck maybe, please use that space, yeah, and leverage it. So yeah, I would invite you to, after the call, to still have one more look on the plan you kind of designed now and think, what would you need to do in terms of next steps? Because now what happened, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, you should have sort of a goal in your skill development for a year, 6 months from now, 3 months, maybe a month, and a week from now, but you have actions really just for the first week. So I would invite you to still try to also bridge that a little bit more with also outline of actions for after that first week that leads you to the first month and so on. However, the first week is the crucial one here, so let's stick with that one. So I would invite you to reflect a little bit about what is one action based on the plan you just designed that you wish to do literally already tomorrow. And I will ask you to share that action in a minute. You can actually start sharing it in chat already, but then I'll read it in a minute. And in the meantime, I'll just throw in 3 very short final remarks at you as sort of a little tips and ideas to also take into your self-development. I know you all know them already, but this is also a reminder to use them a little bit more. So first 2 are just to celebrate little victories. So to remember, if now you build that plan for the next week and months and 3 months, to actually at the end of that week, look back and to really celebrate a little bit and reward yourself, at least pat yourself on the back, maybe share in the tribe, maybe share with a friend, hey, I've actually achieved my plan. I've did this for a week. I'm working on developing this skill. Don't wait for end of the year to think about that. Celebrate a bit in the end of the week already. The second thing, really, really crucial thing with developing almost any skill is to measure it as well. So think within your plan and within your actions, how can you also measure it a little bit if you didn't decide on that already. And then the third thing is related to consistency. For, again, almost every skill, of course, there are exceptions, but for almost every skill, these small, consistent actions contribute much more to developing it than very big goals and, you know, big effort done rarely. So I would also invite you to think in your plan, how can you make it easier? How can you make it more every day, but smaller, with less effort required for each of the actions, but then having many more actions lined up throughout the week and the month and so on. So basically, yeah, make it easier and celebrate it more. That's the point. You know, the touch of self-compassion in self-development. We usually kind of take it a bit too harsh sometimes. Having all that said, I would really like to invite you to share in chat or in speaking if you prefer. It's our final point for today. To share, yeah, one immediate action that you're actually planning to do this week, or one insight you're taking away from the call today. You know me, I would prefer to hear the action, but if it's something you're a bit shy to share or not totally sure on, then insight works well as well. But I would be really happy if everybody shared now for bye-bye message, at least something. So please, or speak up or write in chat, yeah, and give us some insight into what you learned today or what action are you taking away. Who's going to be brave to start?
Shall I?
Yes, please, go for it.
All right. Yeah, so it was interesting to hear from you that with better focus on an aspect that we are not really that good at, even though I had something else in mind, like to perfect one field first and then leave the other for another time. So I chose the physical part of exercising more and eating more healthily. So my plan for this week and for tomorrow especially is to try to be conscious about what I'm eating and like